Hi everyone, Anthony on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film with a new episode of the Terra Adventure podcast, episode 337, presented by my Morphin Megaverse Power Rangers Facebook group. Back in 2014, last time I discussed anything regarding any of the Megazords from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy was, well, in fact, it was a long time ago. Back in 2014, I did a discussion video about the Centaurus and Stratoforce Megazords, which are one of the considered Lost Galactic beasts. But I feel like there's not really much coverage to talk about what was one of the Lost Galactic beasts as well, because there's a shark, phoenix, and rhinoceros galactic beast, but the big white shark itself, that being the Zenith Carrierzord. Well, what is it about the Zenith Carrierzord that has not been said before? Here's the thing. The Zenith Carrierzord, also known as Gigabytus from Gingaman, what is to be said about this thing? Like, it's the Shark Galactic Beast that is the big one, and it's the only one with Carrierzord in its name. But I just wondered, why on earth did they even only have the Zord if it's not going to do anything beyond its, debut with the other two Lost Galactic beasts, that being the Centaurus and Stratoforce Megazords? I just don't get it, because the Zenith Carrierzord is one of the most underrated Zords of Lost Galaxy. It's only around just to, whenever the Rangers summon Stratoforce and Centaurus, or one of them per episode, Zenith Carrierzord only exists just to launch the S Zords, that is the Stratoforce, and the C Zords, that are the Centaurus Zords. And when they become the Megazords, Zenith Carrierzord only exists just to go out there. From last what I recall, because the Zenith Carrierzord was only around for a couple of episodes for Power Rangers Lost Galaxy second half. From the Lost Galactic Beast Part 1 all the way to the final episode before the end of the Lost Galaxy arc, and also the finale of the season, that being Raise the Titanosaur. Raise the Titanosaur was the final time we would see the Zenith Carrierzord present on the show. But this also begs the question, what happened to the Zenith Carrierzord afterwards? You should know that the Zenith Carrierzord was with the other Galactic Beasts right as soon as Terra Venture was about to leave Captain Mutiny's clutches in the Lost Galaxy. And then afterwards, and I feel like I'm going to overthink this a bit, but they should have had the Zenith Carrierzord, well, somewhat in a final battle in American footage. But if they used the toy version, because there have been times Power Rangers have used some of the toy versions of some of the Megazords and stuff for, if you couldn't do, well, again, that was season 3 MMPR with that, how they combined the Ninja and Shogun Megazords to have Titanus around to do the Ninja or Shogun Ultra Zord. But I think using the toy version would be pretty cheap, so they have to use the actual prop. Or if they couldn't afford the actual prop of the Zenith Carrierzord that was from Gingaman in its, Shark Carrierzord form, you can always just go to the toy store, and they could have did that, but knowing that it was not in the show's budget. But if they used the toy version of the Zenith Carrierzord for when the Megazords were trying to fend off against Trakeena's suicidal bomb-strapped Stingwingers in Part 2 of Journey's End. But no, that would probably cheapen the much higher quality that they had at the time with Lost Galaxy. So if they used the toy version of the Zenith Carrierzord, it would cheapen the impact of the Megazords trying to fend off the the already destroyed main dome of Terra Venture from all the Stingwingers. So that's probably why the Zenith Carrierzord was absent. But you should know that the only Galactic Beast that we lost in the show was the Zord, Stratoforce, and Centaurus Megazords. The Galaxy Megazord and the Zenith are the only galactic beasts, and thus so far, to not get destroyed. But Magna Defender's Zord and Stratoforce and Centaurus are the only Zords that were destroyed. So I guess maybe like once when Trachina did destroy the Centaurus and Stratoforce Megazords, the Zenith Carrierzord would not function anymore. So without the Centaurus and Stratoforce Megazords to go back to it, Zenith Carrierzord can no longer function anymore. Or maybe that's just what I'm thinking. But I think Zenith Carrierzord was probably destroyed within the main dome of Terra Venture, laying somewhere, because we don't even know where the Galactic Beast would be on Terra Venture when the Rangers were traveling on the colony over the course of the season. So where do the Galactic Beasts be resting or hiding anyway? Again, no one knows. And of course, sharks only breathe underwater, but Terra Venture and its main dome must have some big, massive lake somewhere where the Zenith can hide or so. Or the Zenith, well, since it is a shark, but where does it rest before whenever the Rangers call out the Zenith Carrierzord to summon the Stratoforce and Centaurus Megazords? And again, no one knows. But not only that, it was the only time. Now, Lost Galactic Beast Part 2 was the only time we see the Zenith Carrierzord in its warrior mode in action. And that was the only time we only see it in action, acting as like the Tor the Shuttle Zord of the show. Because if you look at Tor the Shuttle Zord, Tor at least had its turtle mode and its warrior mode, and also can form also an Ultra Zord with the individual Thunder Zords with Tor. And there's another opportunity that Gingaman and Lost Galaxy failed to do with all of their Megazords actually in general. I think one of the things I don't like about Lost Galaxy now in retrospect is that none of the Megazords from the season can combine with each other to make some, have two different Megazords combine with each other. Because again, I guess Gingaman and Lost Galaxy both don't want to do what all the other Power Ranger seasons tend to do with that. I mean, we've seen it with so many other Megazords, and especially with Ultra Zords, but the Zenith Carrierzord, since it's the only Ultra Zord of sort that is a carrier Zord. But every Ultra Zord and Shuttle Zord, it can function with the other Megazords to do a massive, big, giant robot combo. Because that's one of the things I wish that Lost Galaxy could have done. If there was a Ultra Zord compartment to put the Stratoforce, the Galaxy Megazord, and with the Stratoforce and Centaurus Zords together, or I know it was going to feel like if you're doing a Pyramidas method with the Zenith Carrierzord. But see, that's what sucks about the Gingaman Lost Galaxy Zords, is that they don't do the other, the typical functions as all the other Megazords we had in Power Rangers. Although the only Megazord that can do two Megazords combined together the last time, speaking of space-themed Ranger seasons, was in space itself. Because the previous season proved that you can combine the Astro Megaship and the Delta Megaship in their Megazord forms to form the Astro Delta Megazord. But what's wrong that when we had the Galaxy Megazord, but of course Zord, combining Zord's parts with the Galaxy Megazord would not work, and knowing that the Lysa Ryan enhancement can work only with the Galaxy Megazord. And later on in Trachina's Revenge, when the Galaxy Rangers, when the Galactic Beasts were brutally injured by Trachina's monster form, the Galaxy Rangers' last bit of power of the Lysa Ryan can fuse with the Lightspeed Rangers' Omega Megazord. But when it came to like a Carrierzord Ultra Zord combo, there's no way you can like place the Galaxy Megazord on top of the Zenith Carrierzord to do an Ultra Zord combo. I mean, the Zenith Carrierzord could have been at least like a, Titanus or Tor or Pyramidas of the season if it wanted to, or Artillatron, because we had like so many Ultra Zords over the 90s era of Power Rangers that proved that you can combine these Zords together to do a massive Ultra Zord combo. I mean, with the for instance, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, we had like 4 Ultra Zord combos. The first one would be like, of course, season 1 you had Titanus with the Dino Zords and the Dino Megazord and Dragon Zord on top of Titanus to form the Ultra Zord with all those Gatling guns and everything and cannons. Season 2 we had, the Thunder Zord assault team on top of Tor. Season 3 we had 2. We had first the Ninja Megazord with Titanus, because again, Kaku Ranger was lacking a Ultra Zord, so that's why it made sense and that's one of the few aspects I did liked about Mighty Morphin Season 3 to improve from Kaku Ranger, was give the Power Rangers another stab at bringing Titanus back, because Titanus is one of the only few Zords from Season 1 that was never destroyed prior to Ninja Quest. So good thing that Titanus was around for at least one more season. And then, of course, Shogun Megazord with Titanus, and that worked. And we know that in Zeo we had Pyramidas with the Red Battle Zord and the individual Zeo Zords to do the Zeo Ultra Zord, and that worked there. Turbo with the Rescue Megazord, you have Artillatron's arm cannons to do artillery power, and that worked. But I guess I have to say for In Space as well, but though that In Space didn't have an Ultra Zord, besides the fact they just only have the Astro Delta Megazord, which kind of was like an Ultra Zord enough as it was, because the Delta Megazord had more artillery power compared to the Astro Megazord. So that's why the Astro and Delta Megazord worked better. But although, if you remember that unused Silver Titanus, which was going to be planned for Countdown to Destruction in Space, they could have had a Titanus of sorts, which Bandai made a pointless toy of that they did not even bother using for Countdown to Destruction. And In Space could have had an Ultra Zord. Lost Galaxy. Well, now when you think back to Lost Galaxy, again, speaking of Zenith Carrierzord once again, the Zenith Carrierzord could have acted as an Ultra Zord because it's the biggest of all of the Galacta Beasts. Because the Zenith Carrierzord is this big white and blue shark Galacta Beast, and it's a carrier ship. And it could have functioned as an Ultra Zord if it wanted to. If you got your individual shark carrier ship form and your battle warrior form, which was only used for one episode, and that was again when the 3 Lost Galacta Beasts, aka even the Lost Steel Star Beast, would be reformed after being under DVI/Biznella's control. And what really sucks about it for both Ginga Man and Lost Galaxy, the Zenith Carrierzord could have been another Ultra Zord. Now, I mind the Zenith Carrierzord for some things, but the Zenith Carrierzord, and also correlating to my 8-year-old Centaurus and Stratoforce Megazord discussion video, it just raised the question about the 3 Galacta Beasts. We do have the 5 Lost Galaxy Rangers we know, plus 1 Magna Defender. If the 5 main Rangers have the 5 original Galacta Beasts, Magna Defender was Torozord, would it raise the question if the Zenith, Stratoforce, and Centaurus Galacta Beasts had Rangers of their own? Because when you look at the Zenith Carrierzord, it is a carrier ship. You can see window panels on the face of the Zenith, and it's like, was there anyone that actually took control of the Zenith Carrierzord in that great battle before they became what they are in their metallic form? Although the Galacta Beasts are in the raw form, and then later their mech form. But was there Rangers that were tied to the Centaurus and Stratoforce and Zenith Galacta Beasts that had quasar sabers of their own and took control of these Zords when they were in that battle, that very battle from 3,000 years in the Power Rangers universe. Because it just made me wonder if there was a squad of Centaurus Rangers, Stratoforce Rangers, and even probably just one Zenith Ranger. And that Zenith Ranger, if there was such a Zenith Ranger for Lost Galaxy, he could have been like Lost Galaxy's equivalent to the Phantom Ranger. Because if you look at the Phantom Ranger only had the Artillotron Ultra Zord to give to the Turbo Rangers, which also launches their Rescue Zords. But Zenith Carrierzord, if they had a Zenith Ranger for the Zenith Carrierzord, that would have worked too. But again, Lost Galaxy was what it was, so was with Ginga Man. I just feel like the Zenith Carrierzord just felt like a really useless thing to have around the series. Although just to exist, just to launch the Centaurus and Stratoforce Megazords, unless if the Rangers need it, or need one of them, or just both Megazords. Zenith Carrierzord could have, since they had the when they were filming the Captain Mutiny episodes, they had both the Titanosaur and Grunshore, first form of Grunshore costumes. They couldn't even bother get the Zenith Carrierzord to help out all the other Megazords in action. To take down Grunshore, when Grunshore was destroying almost everything in the Mountain Dome, sucking up a bunch of boulders. Or when Titanosaur was attacking twice on Terra Venture, hence why Terra Venture during the Captain Mutiny saga was having so many problems with their engines the longer they stayed in that void of space. That the Zenith Carrierzord could have helped out all of the Lost Galaxy Zords to take down Titanosaur, if in American footage. But even though they had the suits for the Megazords, except for the Galaxy Megazord with its Lights of Orion enhancements, though, so that's going to be tricky. But they couldn't even bother, for some reason, they could not even bother to get the Zenith Carrierzord to help out those Megazords. But I guess it's understandable, because given what was in the footage, they decided, no, let's just leave it as it was. And I just think that the Zenith Carrierzord just felt like a really wasted, waste of space for the Galacta Beast. And that's just what I feel, because actually in general, as much as I mind the Zenith Carrierzord, but it just felt like a waste of space. Of all the Lost Galaxy Zords, the Zenith Carrierzord started to grow on me, and I actually think it's a interesting looking shark themed carrier ship. And also I must wonder what the base of operations for this thing would have looked like for a Carrierzord. Of course, the Rangers don't pilot the Carrierzord or anything. The Zords are sentient, because that's just how Power Rangers treats the Zords. Even Ginga Man had treated the Zords the same way. So, but again, gotta go by what was in the footage. Hopefully, eventually, whenever Boom Studios delve into more Power Rangers lore for like any of the Lost Galaxy stuff that I wish that, as much as I love the season, despite some problems with it, I have with it more than 22 years later now. I kind of wish that they would expand more on the other Galacta Beasts, except for the main 5 and Terrazord. Expand more on the mythos and pathos of the Centaurus, Stratoforce, and Zenith Galacta Beasts, and expand on their origins a bit as well, if that's possible, or it may never will happen. So I think that's about I can say about Zenith Carrierzord for 20 minutes, because, all in all, I just wish that the Zenith Carrierzord would have been used a little more during the remaining half of Lost Galaxy. But given what Ginga Man footage they had, Sentai footage of it from Ginga Man that they had, I guess that they should have did some more originality with it around. But I understand Lost Galaxy when they were filming it, but again, that's 22 years ago now, because there's no time for that anymore. They should have done it years ago, but I'm not saying that they should Now, so maybe wait until like in a Power Ranger cinematic universe or in the Boom comics, they'll probably expand more on these Zords and give it more leeway than what we actually got in the series, and given the footage and the budget. So that's all I can say for 20 minutes about the Zenith Carrierzord. So what do you guys felt about my feelings about this thing? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'm off for now. Anyway, guys, signing off until next time on a new episode of the podcast.